Thank you for joining us today for today's ABA Civil Rights and Social Justice Program, How Things Work, the Legal Edition, which is a rapid response project that addresses how our civil rights are being impacted by actions being taken by the new administration. My name is Stephanie Baez, and I'm the Director of Pro Bono for the ABA Commission on Immigration. And I'm thrilled to welcome you to this conversation. These videos are a unique opportunity to address what's happening in America today and clarify any misinformation or disinformation being spread and how civil rights and social justice advocates can act to protect the rights of everyone. Today's topic is birthright citizenship and the recent Trump administration executive order aiming to rescind birthright citizenship. Our conversation today will examine the importance of these issues and how they intersect with the principles of justice and equity that guide the work of this section of civil rights and social justice and the ABA generally. We're honored to have with us Mohammad Syed, a principal attorney in Offit Kurman's immigration law practice group based in the DC area. Mo primarily represents clients in business, employment-related, and family-based immigration matters. He's also a member of the ABA Commission on Immigration and has been part of the ABA section of international law, including as co-chair for the Immigration and Naturalization Committee. We're grateful for Mo's willingness to share his insights with us today. And so without further ado, we can go ahead and jump in. To start, Mo, can you explain for us what is birthright citizenship and where do we find the right to birthright citizenship in US law?
Sure. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for the kind introduction. Glad to be here. So birthright citizenship is the legal principle that grants U.S. citizenship to nearly all individuals that are born on U.S. soil, and that is regardless of the immigration status of their parents. And this right is established by the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. And I will read the 14th Amendment states, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. Okay, end quotes. And the interpretation of this amendment has been reaffirmed by multiple Supreme Court cases, the US Supreme Court decisions, including the well-known case of United States versus Wong Kim Ark, which is an 1898 case. So it's well established in the Constitution and the Supreme Court precedent.
Okay, thank you. And just recently on January 20th, which was President Trump's first day in office, he signed an order, an executive order called Protecting the Meaning and Value of American Citizenship. Can you tell us about this executive order and what it's trying to do?
Yes, absolutely. So like you stated, the executive order, it's Executive Order 14160, and it aims to end birthright citizenship for children born in the United States to non-citizen parents who are either unlawfully present in the country or in the country temporarily. So specifically, the order stipulates that U.S. citizenship at birth would no longer be granted if the mother was unlawfully present in the U.S. and the father was neither a U.S. citizen nor a permanent resident at the time of birth. And next, the mother was in the U.S. on a temporary status, for example, as a student, a work visa, or a tourist visa, and the father was neither a U.S. citizen nor a lawful permanent resident at the time of birth. And the order was set to apply to children born on or after February 19, 2025.
Got it. Okay. So if this executive order is enacted, what would the impact be? And maybe we could start with impact on asylum seekers, which is a population that is here lawfully and with the intention to stay permanently. So doesn't really fit squarely under these the definitions that the executive order is trying to carve out.
Yeah, Stephanie, exactly. I mean, it's, the impact on asylum seekers would be huge. I mean, asylum seekers are those who are lawfully present in the U.S. with the intent to stay permanently. It would be significantly impacted since many of them are in the process of seeking permanent residency, but are not yet permanent residents. So children born in the U.S. Could be denied citizenship to asylum seekers, leading to uncertainty and potential statelessness.
And can you explain statelessness a little bit more and how that would impact either these asylum seekers or families from countries that don't have diplomatic ties with the United States?
Absolutely. So yeah, this gets to be a little complex and tricky, in theory, but I'll try to summarize. So essentially, countries with which the U.S. does not have diplomatic ties, they citizens, I mean, children born to parents from such countries could be left stateless because the home country, from the home country perspective, this is a child born in the U.S. and therefore a U.S. citizen, and the home country will they may have a policy of not allowing dual citizenship, right? So then you end up with somebody who, in their, the country of their parents' nationality, may refuse to recognize them and give them citizenship of their countries. And then we would have a situation where the U.S. is, if this executive order is upheld, then such people would face extreme, tremendous hardship. I mean, so it's really a Pandora's box, to be honest.
Yeah, to see what the cascading implications would be. I was also thinking while you were talking about people who are not able to go to their consulate in the US and get a passport, or like you were saying about asylum seekers, for people who don't want to avail themselves of the government of the country that they're fleeing from and go to a consulate and get passports for their children, and just those additional complications that would arise for a lot of people. Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, if we start to sort of think through the logical consequences, they are, pretty, they can create a lot of distress for a lot of people.
And is there any precedent for this kind of executive order, basically using an executive order to amend the United States Constitution?
There is not. There is no legal precedent for using an executive order to amend or reinterpret the Constitution in such a fundamental way, right? Because we have legal experts that widely agree that birthright citizenship is protected under the 14th Amendment, and that such a change would require a constitutional amendment rather than executive action. So there's either congressional action or a Supreme Court ruling. Those would be the two ways in which legally the birthright citizenship could be amended. But the way the executive order is being the way it's written, in my mind, it is a clear violation of well-established constitutional law and legal precedent.
What's the current status of the executive order? Could you tell us what court cases are pending and kind of where we're at?
Yeah, so there are several court cases pending. The executive order immediately faced legal challenges. Several federal judges have issued preliminary injunctions blocking the enforcement, essentially citing conflicts with the 14th Amendment citizenship clause. The lawsuits have been filed by civil rights organizations, immigrant advocacy groups, and by affected families. So let me just quickly, so I counted at least 10 lawsuits challenging the executive order. The plaintiffs, in addition to the ones I mentioned above, 22 U.S. state attorneys generals have joined a litigation. And there's two prominent cases. One is Doe v. United States, a class action lawsuit arguing again that the executive order violates the 14th Amendment. And the other one is ACLU versus Trump. And it's by the American Civil Liberties Union seeking a nationwide injunction. Now, I believe our 4 federal judges have issued preliminary injunctions. It may be more as of just within the last several days, there's a lot of activity happening. So these injunctions have effectively blocked the implementation and enforcement of the executive order. Now, significantly, on February 19th and on February the 28th, the two federal appellate courts also refused to block the injunction. So the Ninth Circuit in San Francisco, U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals, this was the appeals court denied the government's request to block the injunction. And just to go into a little bit of detail, just to see how some of these courts are, describing the executive order. So interestingly, the judge in the Ninth Circuit, U.S. Circuit Court Judge Daniel Forrest, is a Trump appointee appointed during the first Trump administration. In a concurring opinion, wrote that refused basically that the government had failed its burden, and that if judges were to rule against the injunction, they would risk eroding the public confidence in judges, and judges must reach their own decisions apart from ideology or political preference. Also, the judge said that the circumstances themselves don't demonstrate an obvious emergency where it appears that the exception to birthright citizenship that the government is proposing has never been recognized by the judiciary. So there's clearly, historical precedent, and the judges are, saying that there's the injunction, so is likely to stay in place. The other judges on that panel, interestingly, were U.S. Circuit Judge William Canby, who was appointed by former President Jimmy Carter, and then another judge appointed by the former Republican President George W. Bush. So just moving quickly to the Fourth Circuit. So in Virginia, so the Richmond, Virginia-based Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, in a 2-1 vote, essentially denied the government's request, and upheld. Basically, there was a national injunction that was issued by the federal judge in Maryland, and the Maryland judge concluded that the order was unconstitutional. So as of the present, the order remains unenforceable due to these legal injunctions. And, it looks pretty likely that the matter will progress through the appellate courts and reach the U.S. Supreme Court for a definitive resolution.
Great. Yeah, that was just going to be my next question. Thank you for that clear explanation of the current state of play. And just if you were to predict the future of where the executive order would be going, I know everything's changing so rapidly, but what would you predict for the future of this?
Yeah, so, I have obviously enough caution to sort of that unexpected things can happen, but in this area, because birthright citizenship is so clearly it's subject of prior precedent, and constitutional amendments, the process for those is so well laid out, that I feel that we'll have the injunction will remain in place. We'll continue to have prolonged litigation, and then eventually the Supreme Court will have to decide. My own sense is that given its own precedent, the Supreme Court will likely strike down the order. In the meantime, there is also obviously potential for legislative efforts, either supporting or opposing the contents of the executive order, right? So depending on the political landscape and the public reaction. So, if we see a significant public outcry and advocacy efforts to oppose this measure, we could see such efforts to play a significant role in shaping the outcome.
Great. Okay. And just in closing, what can we do as attorneys, advocates, just the general public, to help protect our constitutional rights and those of the members of our communities?
Absolutely. I mean, now is the time to really be active, and this is such an issue that community organizations, advocacy groups, organizations like the ABA and its various chapters and committees, state and local bar organizations. There's a tremendous amount of advocacy being done at the grassroots level. The two state representatives, senators, congresspeople. So I think that we, measures that can be effective are, number one, legal advocacy. So supporting organizations that are challenging the executive order in court, such as the ACLU, the National Immigration Law Center, and other civil rights groups. These are just a few that come to mind. I mean, the ABA Commission on Immigration is doing an amazing job. I think, spreading public awareness, educating others about the legal and constitutional implications of the executive order, and advocating for policies that protect birthright citizenship. So that's 2, 3, legislative engagement. I mean, they're all kind of related. I would recommend contacting elected officials to express opposition to any efforts that undermine birthright citizenship, and to encourage legislative protections. And then, lastly, community support, which provide resources and support to affected families, including assistance and community organizing efforts. It's incredible how, at least in the DMV area, I have, and across the nation as well, I mean, there are community-based groups at grassroots level that are really trying to help people that might be potentially impacted by such an executive order. So I think, continue doing the good work that all these groups are doing, and raising awareness, and trying to essentially reach out to the public elected officials to ask for the right thing to be done.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Mo, for being here with us today and for explaining the current lay of the land with this issue and the important consequences that are there. I want to also thank everyone who's joining us today. Thank you for being a part of this important conversation. The issues that we are exploring here are complex and challenging, but by coming together in spaces like this, we're taking meaningful steps towards progress. And please remember that the work doesn't stop here. It continues with the actions that we take in our communities, like Mo was describing, and in our workplaces and within the ABA. So I encourage you to stay engaged, stay involved with the ABA's Civil Rights and Social Justice section, or in other sections of the ABA. Become a member if you aren't one already. And you can visit the Civil Rights and Social Justice section website to explore upcoming events, and consider joining a committee to help shape the work that's being done. So once again, thank you so much for watching, and together we can and will make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.